This video is going to go up late. This is probably going to be like one of the scariest, or I don't want to say scariest, but it's one of the more vulnerable videos that I have ever and probably ever will do. So, it's necessary. Hey socialites, it is your girl Nay, the Untamed Socialite. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. You could be watching anyone else and you're watching me, and for that I am so grateful. On my channel I talk about everything from beauty to lifestyle to fashion to mental health and just anything that I think will inspire or help someone. So if those are things that you are interested in, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and also share this video with your peeps so that they can join the socialite tribe. We love it here. On today's video, I wanted to talk about a condition that I have been living with for the past 7 years of my life. I think it's really important to discuss this condition. When I was first diagnosed, I came here to YouTube and I was looking for all the answers, and not even just the answers. I really wanted someone who had gone through it, and I wanted to see them and for them to say, you're going to be okay. And I did not find that. I came and there was a bunch of clinicians and doctors and nurses that were talking about this condition, and they honestly made it worse than they made it better. So I wanted to do a video today so that anyone else that found themselves in my shoes could know that they're going to be okay. What condition am I talking about? In honor of Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, I wanted to talk about HPV. What is HPV? HPV is the human papilloma virus. It is the most common sexually transmitted disease. It is said that most sexually active adults will either have come in contact with HPV in their lifetime, some form of HPV. HPV is diagnosed in 48 million Americans a year. It is made up of over 200 different strains of the virus. And a virus is just like a common cold or the flu, or even the virus that caused the chicken pox for people who are 30 and older. Like I said, it's 200 different strands of HPV, and the most virulent strands are 16 and 18. They have been linked to 70% of the cervical cancer diagnosis. And then there are low-grade strands 6 and 11 that cause things like genital warts, which are benign lesions in the genitalia area. How is HPV found? HPV is found by a pap smear. There is no testing to date for men. So that is why it is very important for women to get their pap smears every single year. I know that the guidelines have changed and that some people will say that you only need to get your pap smear every 2 years, or every 3 years. Some people even say every 5 years. But from what I've learned and just been dealing with this condition is that it's very touch and go. 1 year, it can be dormant in your system and your pap smear come up fine. And then the next year, your pap smear comes back abnormal and you may have some sort of cell changes. So what does HPV do to your body? HPV basically causes precancerous changes on women's cervix. It also, in men and women, can cause neck and throat cancer, as well as it is linked to anal cancer. The precancerous cells on your cervix, if not treated, can turn into cervical cancer. There are different levels to your cervical cell changes. There are low grade changes or low SIL, which is known as SIN 1. There are moderate grade changes, which is SIN 2, and there are high grade changes, which is SIN 3, formerly known as carcinoma in situ. And after SIN 3, most of the precancerous changes have now turned into full-on cervical cancer. Cervical cancer is one of the most treatable cancers if it is detected early on. So testing is very important. Staying on top of your pap smears, your yearly exams are extremely important because if caught in time, you can be cured. How is HPV treated? There is currently no cure for HPV. There is a vaccine, and the vaccine is only for people 9 years old to 26 years old. So if you are 30 and you're having sex for your first time, you will not get vaccinated. If you are like 25 and you already have HPV, usually they will not vaccinate you because it is said that your body is supposed to build up antibodies once you're infected with the virus, and it will fight them off, which is why most people either never find out that they've had HPV or they have it and then the next year it's gone or dormant. The treatment for cervical cell changes, also known as precancer or dysplasia, there are a few treatment options. They can freeze off the cells of your cervix, so they freeze your cervix or where the cells are, and it basically freezes off the bad cells as well as hopefully kills or takes the virus that is living on your cervix off. There is the LEAP, where they basically take a hot tool and they cut off a piece of your cervix. So they like burn a piece of your cervix off that has the cervical cell changes. And then there is a cone biopsy where they take a chunk of your cervix. It allows them to go higher up and take a chunk of your cervix. So they're able to test it and hopefully take off the infected cells as well as any HPV that is living on the cervix. There are effects to all of these treatments. Your cervix can become incompetent. Your cervix can go through stenosis or shrinkage. There are a bunch of different effects from the treatments for it currently. There is also something called escharotics, which is a naturopathic treatment. And basically they put some stuff on your cervix and I can't even get into that. I don't know, honestly, enough to tell you it. I just know they put some stuff on your cervix and it supposedly heals your cervix, and a light or something like that. And it's there's also like people who will say take things like Papilex, turkey tails, drink green tea. There are so many things that people say, but really your body's defense. How do you find out that you have cervical cell changes? It starts with your pap smear. If you have a pap smear and it comes back, abnormal with any changes, then you will be scheduled for what's called a colposcopy. And a colposcopy is a more in-depth pap smear. They basically have a machine. They basically have they do like your regular pap smear, and they open up your cervix with this machine, and it allows the doctor to look in your cervix a bit deeper. They spray this solution on it, like a vinegar solution, and it is supposed to turn any spots with cervical cell changes white. They'll biopsy that spot, and then they'll figure out a treatment from there. So my story with HPV. I got diagnosed with HPV. It'll be 7 years in February. I had actually had one dose of the vaccine, and I lost my health insurance, so I was unable to go back for my second dose. And when I got my health insurance back, I was 27, so I was too old for the vaccine. I got my pap smear. Everything was fine. I lost my insurance again, and I wasn't able to get a pap smear again until I was 29. So, you know, they said wait 2 years because I was fine. So I go back and I get a pap smear, and I'm thinking, you know, everything is okay, and wait for my results. Nothing came. So I'm like, oh, I'm good. You know what they say, like, if you don't hear from the doctors, then everything is okay. Well, no news is good news, right? So maybe like 2 weeks after I took my pap smear, my doctor called me. It was really late at night because my mom was sick at the time. We were visiting her in the hospital. I will never forget it. And I remember stepping out, and it was probably like 8 o'clock at night, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And I was stepping out. I stepped out into the hallway to take the call. And my doctor was like, you know, I just wanted to call you because your pap smear came back abnormal, and you tested positive for HPV. Now, other than the vaccine, I really didn't know. I have to be honest. I really didn't know much about HPV. And when you Google it, I swear to you, Google can be a gift and a curse. It kind of like leads you down this rabbit hole of you got cancer, basically. Like, anybody that Googles anything, you know, either you have cancer, you have a brain tumor, you have meningitis. Like, Google is that's just what it does. That's just what it gives. And so I came here first to YouTube, and I didn't see anybody other than doctors talking about it, or people who, you know, their HPV progressed to cancer talking about it. But I didn't see anyone who just was like, I just got diagnosed with HPV and this is what happened, or anything like that. And so the doctor also said on the phone that I had got my test done, because like I said, I didn't have any insurance. So I got my test done at Planned Parenthood, but they didn't do colposcopies there. So I had to wait for my results to come in the mail to go to the health center, like the public clinic. And then the public clinic would then assign me to a GYN to do the colposcopy. And I just remember like instantly going like weak on the inside after I got off the phone with her, because she didn't really say much. She just, you know, she was very much a doctor about it. She gave her results, and that was that. And so I just remember like, I remember freaking out. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I became so depressed. I became so anxious, and I just wanted to talk about it with everybody. And of course, like, my mom had never heard of it. My aunt had never heard of it. You know, like, nobody really knew. And I remember freaking out, like, this causes cervical cancer. Like, you know, this is what causes cervical cancer. And I just remember being so scared. Like, I remember just not being able to sleep. I remember not being able to eat. Like, it really sent me over the edge. I was already under a ton of stress at the time, and it just was like one more thing that I just did not need. And I remember also just feeling so damaged and dirty, because it was just kind of like, I had been sexually active at that point for a lot of years. I mean, I was grown, I was 29 years old. So I remember, you know, just feeling like damaged. Like, who gave this to me? Where did this come from? Like, how, you know, like, I just remember just feeling a lot of different ways. And then also my husband and I hadn't even been dating for a year. And I remember feeling like, oh my God, like, we had already been through so much together. And I was like, man, this man is going to leave me. This is just another thing. This is just too much dysfunction. And now I got a fucking STD, right? Sorry to be so blunt, but that's what I felt in my mind. And so, I just, you know, I would talk to anyone that would listen. And I had 2 people like, you're going to be fine. You know, like, I've had 2 people kind of say like, I've been through this, and, you know, you're going to be okay. Like, you know, I went through this, and, you know, it's hard. I had one person who went through it. They got their colposcopy. They were fine. And then I had another person who went through it, and they got their colposcopy, and they're like me. They have had it for a very long time. And so, you know, they were just like, you're going to be fine. But still in that moment, because I don't think I talked to them, the second person, maybe for like, until like 3 weeks into it. Maybe, yeah, like 3 weeks into it. And that's when it was kind of like, okay, but still what Google said was in the back of my mind. I'm not even going to lie to you. And I had joined some support groups online, which I will link down below, that kind of like was helping calm me down, but it was also still really scary because she didn't say anything other than abnormal and cervical cell cancer change, like cervical cell changes. That's all she said. She didn't have any more information for me, and I had to wait for my results to come. So I remember my results came and I opened them and it said I had low SIL, and I looked that up and it was like, okay, I have basically SIN 1, which is like, you know, pre-cancer level 1. And so I went to the health clinic, and I remember going there, and any doctor really scares me, but the health clinic, I was just like, the health center, I was just like, oh my God, I was so scared. And so I remember the lady, she was like, well, let me see your results. And I showed her my results, and she was like, girl, let's take a deep breath. And she was like, let's exhale, calm down. She was like, I have women who come in here that have results that are way worse than this, and they don't take it serious. They just like, whatever it is, you know, like, and that's why I say women, we have to take our health serious, especially our vaginal health. Like, we have to take it serious. And so, you know, she was like, I'm going to schedule you for a colposcopy. But it's, you know, like, just breathe. It's going to be okay. So I remember leaving there and I felt really empowered and I felt really good. And then I think I got on my site, and then you go in a rabbit hole. You know, like I read in one of the support groups, somebody had the same thing as me, and then they went for their colposcopy and it was much worse. And it was just like support groups and Google, right? So I went to the doctor. I was able to get an appointment, and I went to the doctor, and she was like, as soon as I came in there, she said, I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear none of your negativity. I don't hear nothing. Let me look and see what's going on, and then we can talk about it. And so she checked, and I did have SIN 1, and she was like, okay, I want you to take care of your body, and I want you to come back in a year. This, you know, like, this should be gone in a year. So I did exactly what she said. I took care of my body. I started drinking a bunch of green tea. I just started doing all these different things. And I went back in a year, and thank God I was okay. Went back in a year, and I actually tested negative that year. So the next year I was having some problems, and it was time for me to get my pap smear anyway. And so I was having some issues. I didn't know what was going on. And I went and I found out that the issues that I was having was linked to my hormones. But I honestly thought, like, because I was having some like bleeding in between my menstrual. And I was just like, oh my God, I got this ticking time bomb down there. Who knows what's going on? I thought that she said everything was okay, like that kind of thing. And so I went, and so the nurse practitioner, she, you know, asked me my history. I told her, you know, I tested positive 2 years ago for HPV, but last year I was fine. She said, okay. So they tested me. I had some hormone imbalances. So she ended up calling me like a week after my test. This time I didn't have to wait 2 weeks. And she was like, and that day when I had went, because I was having intermenstrual bleeding, she had intermittent bleeding or intermenstrual bleeding. She had already did the colposcopy. So she called me. She was like, hey, I just want you to know that you tested positive for HPV, and you do not, you have high risk HPV, but it is not 16 and 18, which is what's linked to cervical cancer. But you do have another high risk strand. We just don't know what strand that is. So she was like, just breathe and make sure that you keep up with your pap smears every single year. So for the past 7 years, it has been my life's mission to go every single year. And the last 2 years that I've gone, I've had to get a colposcopy. And not because I've had any cervical changes, because my pap smear always comes out normal. It hasn't come out abnormal since the very first time. It always comes out normal, and it comes out normal with high risk HPV. But because I've consistently had HPV, because again, it's something that they say that your body is supposed to fight off after a year, because I consistently have had it, they do a colposcopy to make sure that I don't have any changes that are further up in my cervical canal or inside of my cervical canal. So yeah, I've talked to my doctor numerous times, like, you know, can I come every 6 months? And she's like, it's no need that, you know, it's no need. You come every year. So if anything were to happen, because it's a very slow growing cancer and a very slow growing process, we would find out. So just make sure that you come every year. I've also asked her, can I just get a colposcopy as opposed to a pap smear? And she's like, no, because she is holding out on hope, and she feels like I'm going to come in and it's going to be negative one day. I'm not as hopeful as her, so maybe that's why it hasn't changed, but I'm not as hopeful as her, just because every year, like I said, for the past 7 years, it's only come back negative one time, and clearly it lay dormant in my system, and then it was the same exact virus that reappeared. So yeah, I just want to let anyone know that has HPV, anyone that is newly diagnosed with it, anyone who is currently living with it, that you're going to be okay. Just stay on top of your pap smears and your women well checks. It is literally like a coochie cold, like a cold of your coochie. That's really what my doctor called it. So excuse me if it's too vulgar for you, but that's what she called it. It's a cold of your coochie, like, and it just hasn't left your body. Anyone who is on hormonal birth control, you may want to try to find something different, because there have been studies that have linked persistent HPV infections and rapid cell changes to birth control. And being on birth control for many, many years, like, it's been found that the birth control basically feeds the virus, and instead of allowing your body to do what it needs to do, it suppresses your body. And it's been linked to like birth control and people that use like steroids, because it suppresses your immune system. Anyone that's having sex, use a condom. I mean, there's really no way to know if you're gonna get it or not, because like I said, there's no test for men, so it's really no way to know. Like, literally, you could be a virgin and having sex with someone and they give it to you and they don't even know that they have it. Or you could be a person that's been having sex all your life and it just pops up, and it could really be from you having sex 15 years ago or 10 years ago, as opposed to the person that you had sex with 5 minutes ago. So it's just how it works. Anyone who has progressive cervical cancer, I just want to let you know that you are in my thoughts and in my prayers, and I pray that you get a cure and complete healing. So yeah, that is my cervical, that's my cervix story. That is my HPV story, and I hope that it helps someone. I hope that it sheds some light on it. I think that not enough people talk about it, because my thought was like, all these people running around in Hollywood doing all this other stuff, nobody's talking about HPV. Like, everybody has had to have it at least at some point, right? And I get it. A lot of people don't want to talk about it because they feel ostracized, they feel stigmatized and that kind of thing, but it needs to be said. So I guess I'm gonna be the person that's gonna just say it, right? But yes, anyone, like I said, if you have HPV or you know someone that has it, just know that they're going to be okay. Just know that you're going to be okay. Stay on top of your pap smears. I cannot say that enough. Please, please, please stay on top of your pap smears. So yeah, that is the end of the story time. That is all for this video. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the comments down below. I'm going to leave the support group that I was in that kind of helped me, and maybe that'll help someone else. And if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, share, and yeah, I will see you all on next Tuesday with a new video. All right, smooches. Thank you for watching.